Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us. We are excited to be here today as part of the Duolingo English Test webinar series to speak with you a bit about U.S. business schools and specifically applying to top MBA programs in the United States. My name is Lindsay Addington. I'm part of the Duolingo English Test team focused on supporting our graduate program partners who utilize the Duolingo English Test, and I will be the host of the webinar today. I am excited to be joined by three colleagues, three university representatives, Kim, Lorna, and Grace, who represent their institutions, and I will turn it over briefly to them to introduce themselves. Kim, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Killingsworth. I'm the Director of International Recruiting and Relations for the Owen Graduate School of Management at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee.
My name is Lorna Patches. I'm the Executive Director of the Professional Resource Center for the College of Business at the University of Kentucky, just up the road from Nashville, Tennessee in Lexington.
Great, thank you. And Grace is in the process of joining us. Grace represents the Booth School of Business at the University of Chicago and will be on with us shortly. So I will take us through the next hour. We are excited again to share a wealth of information with you. We will first go over what it's like to be at a business school in the United States. So with a general overview of things that you should be thinking about as you go through the application and admission process. We will have some insights shared about preparing to apply to business schools. And then each of the institutions will spend about 10 minutes discussing applying to business schools at their particular institutions and what the student experience is like at their schools. We will save time at the end for Q&A. So please use the Q&A feature of the webinar platform to send us your questions. Behind the scenes, each university also has representatives here to answer specific questions about their university. And so please utilize that. We will also be monitoring the chat feature. So let's go ahead and get started. Grace, I'm going to kick things over to you for a brief introduction, and then if you can get us started on what makes business schools distinct in the US.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lindsay, and I apologize to everyone. I had a little time zone confusion this morning, but such is our international world. So my name is Grace Chapin-James, and I am the Director of Student Recruitment and Admissions at the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business. And I'm happy to be here to chat with everybody a little bit about the differences in different types of MBA programs in the US. So let's do a quick overview. Most of the schools that are here today are representing primarily our full-time MBA programs, which would be very more traditional programs as you would think of for graduate education. You would come to our campuses, you would live here, and you would really engage in that program for usually a 2-year bracket of time. Those programs tend to be really well suited for folks who have some work experience, but are not super far advanced in your careers to the point where you've got 15, 20 years of work experience and are at the C-suite level or a very large manager of someone. Those types of programs students tend to be really well suited to executive style programs, which often have a smaller residency component, maybe coming in and out of the program on a certain cycle or taking the program on the weekends. And sometimes those kinds of programs will also have an international component as well. I know, for example, the executive program here at Booth has campuses in Chicago, but also in London and Hong Kong. Part-time and evening and weekend programs tend to be really ideal for folks who want to continue working full-time while you are engaging in your MBA. So maybe taking classes at night, taking classes on the weekends, and doing that at a school that's relatively close to you, although sometimes people do commute from city to city for part-time evening and weekend programs as well. I know we have a largely international audience today, and so I want to emphasize that part-time evening and weekend programs typically do not offer any support for US student visas. And so if you would need visa support to be able to attend an MBA program, you should focus on full-time MBA programs, again, that more traditional 2-year experience on campus. and select executive style programs. And again, thinking a little bit more about your campus location, just depending on what schools offer in terms of visa support there. Many of us also offer specialized master's programs and PhD programs, things like master's degrees in finance, accounting, PhD programs for folks that really want to dive very deeply and maybe go towards an academic track in business. And depending on the school, sometimes specialized master's and usually PhD programs could also offer visa support to students. Those typically may be on the side of folks who are interested in more of that academic track, particularly at the PhD level. For the length of degree programs, typically, many of these programs will eventually last 2 years, but might, for example, in a full-time program be a very continuous 2 years, whereas for an evening or weekend or an executive style program, it might be 2 calendar years-ish spread over a longer period of time, or even condensed in some cases, just depending on the program. Full-time versus part-time, we've already talked about a little bit, thinking a little bit more about the duration of time you'll be in that program and whether or not things will be continuous. Some schools do offer an online option, or maybe now more trending towards hybrid options of some campus residency and some distance learning. I know that I, for example, at Booth represent a program that only offers a traditional campus-based experience, but we may have some other folks here today, and there are US-based business schools that may offer more of a hybrid approach. And then work experience is always going to be important for us to consider. Work experience is going to be a helpful factor in decision-making and consideration for candidates at the MBA level in the US. Many schools are going to be looking for folks to come into our programs, whether they're full-time, part-time, executive, with some type of post-undergraduate work experience, maybe a company, organization, family business, and you don't even have to be working in business traditionally in some senses. You know, we have folks who have been teachers, who have been working in the medical field, who have been, more on the technical side of engineering, who are still very interested in the MBA, but they do have some out-of-college work experience before they come to us. During a full-time MBA program, typically that summer between that first and second year will be devoted to an internship, which can be a really important and exciting way for candidates to get a sense of a new type of workplace. Maybe if you're thinking about a career pivot, to do that and explore that in your summer. And sometimes these offers will also extend towards a full-time job after graduation, which can be very exciting. And then all of our offices, and we'll talk a little bit about this later too, offer great career support for candidates after graduation, thinking about gaining those MBA roles after we are all done. So thank you so much, and we will transition to our next presenter for our next slide.
Thank you so much. I have the opportunity to share a little bit with you about the AACSB Accreditation, which is a certification earned by a select number of business schools across the globe. There are more than 500 in the US for reference, but as a point of reference, it's a true testament to the rigor of the programs and also their development of content and dedication to ensuring that that content is current and leading in the industry. The AACSB accreditation process really involves the entire College of Business, and there are two different paths one can take, either for the business school in total or for your accounting program specifically. For instance, the Gatton College of Business holds AACSB accreditations in both of those areas. And when we have our review process and our renewal process, everyone is all hands on deck, ensuring that we are demonstrating exactly how we add value not only to the business community, but to our communities at large, and are making an impact in the global space. We have high caliber instructors, which are allocated to these programs across AACSB accredited schools, and we're continuously developing new content and new areas of focus to make sure that we're keeping up with the needs of our community. So for instance, at the moment, programs are thinking about things like analytics and social responsibility, et cetera, as they're developing new content, new certificates, and new courses, not only for their undergraduate, but also for graduate population.
Which MBA program is going to be right for you? In other words, how do you determine that intangible element of fit? You probably often hear admissions officers talk about fit. First of all, before you try to decide which MBA programs you're going to apply to, it's very important that you do a self-assessment. Look at where you are in your career and where you would like to be. What skills do you bring to the table that would be transferable into another position or another industry? And what do you hope to gain by further education from an MBA program? You'll also need to define what your post-MBA goals are. So once you've done that, you'll also want to identify what aspects you value in an educational experience. For example, do you thrive in a small environment, or do you prefer to be in a much bigger environment where you're a little bit more anonymous? So you'll need to really think about your undergraduate education and what worked for you or what didn't work and how you'd like to improve the experience, and basically how you are going to thrive. What motivates you and what is going to work for you as far as what you're looking for. Next, you'll want to think about the different specializations that programs offer. Often these are called concentrations, which are like majors. It's how universities group their electives within the MBA program. So based on your post-MBA goals, you'll need to look at the different specializations or concentrations of MBA programs. You'll want to look at the university's career opportunities and placement stats, which will be very important for you. And hopefully the schools will divide that down for international students. So if they don't, you may want to inquire about that. If they just have stats for the general population, ask them what their placement stats are for international students. You'll want to consider the location of the school within the United States, because this is a very diverse country, and also the cost and your return on investment. I've listed here some resources that would be helpful for starting your search: Poets and Quants, the Princeton Review, the GMAT Club, and also different MBA admissions counselors. That might be a good investment for you to be able to get advice on programs that might be appropriate for you. As far as strategies, once you've determined what schools you're interested in, you'll want to reach out to them and join their communities. Often, MBA programs will have student ambassadors or fellows that serve as representatives of the MBA program, and they are there to answer any questions that you may have about their experience, because they were in your shoes a few years ago. So make sure you reach out to them and really utilize them for their experience in the program. You'll also want to attend any school events, information sessions and webinars that the different MBA programs do, as well as attend MBA fairs. Most of those right now are virtual, which can be wonderful for being able to attract students from all parts of the world. And there are no barriers, as there can be for in-person events where you may have to travel to go to a fair. So take advantage of this virtual environment and attend different fairs so you can talk to different MBA program representatives and current students. You'll want to reach out to alumni of programs as well. So use LinkedIn, or you can ask the different schools if they can connect you to alums in your area of expertise or your area of interest. And of course, there are the rankings. We all know the rankings. If you use those, just make sure you know what the different rankings are evaluating.
So now we've told you a lot about business schools in general. We're going to spend some time a little bit later talking about each of our institutions more specifically, so we can share with you what makes our campuses special. But as you're thinking about applying to a program in the United States, there are lots of different pieces that you should consider about how individual programs manage their applications. One question you want to make sure to ask of your admission counselor or the MBA admission team is whether they do rounds of admissions or whether they do rolling admissions. So for example, some programs which are potentially more competitive and have a higher application volume do batches where they'll do a round, let's say in the late fall, they'll do another round in the midwinter and then another in late spring. And they admit candidates based on those rounds according to how they will be a good fit for that program. Other programs will go ahead and look at applications as they're submitted, so rolling admissions, and help to find whether or not those students are going to, again, be a good fit for their program. Both are wonderful ways to look at applicants. You have an opportunity to showcase yourself in either system. Just encourage you to make sure you're asking those questions as you're chatting with various programs you're interested in to make sure your application is positioned well for the program you're looking for. Always, we encourage students to apply early as programs are typically competitive, and we want to make sure you also leave ample time for any visa processing that is necessary. Again, thinking about applying for programs, every individual school is going to have their own application process. Many schools use different software packages to enable all of the collating of their test scores, undergraduate transcripts, any certifications that they may require, letters of recommendation, et cetera. But it's going to be individual to the school. So when you're sending your required test scores or your undergraduate transcripts to, let's say, to Chicago Booth, if you're also applying to the University of Kentucky and to Vanderbilt, you will need to send all of those materials individually to each school. And depending on each program you're applying for, there may be different deadlines. So it's a great idea to plan ahead, get out a calendar, and mark the various deadlines for the programs you're interested in, and making sure that you're not missing any of those deadlines. And give yourself plenty of time. Again, you want to showcase yourself as a great candidate and ask lots of questions to make sure that that program is going to be a good fit for you individually. In terms of things that the majority of programs in the United States are going to be looking for in terms of components of an application, we're going to ask for your undergraduate transcripts. Some individuals will have attended more than one undergraduate institution, so make sure you have official transcripts from all of those institutions if that is applicable to you. Some institutions will require a WES evaluation. Others will not. For instance, at the University of Kentucky, we do an assessment of your undergraduate transcripts in-house, and we will look at your evaluation from external parties, but we do an additional view internally here. Of course, you want to make sure that you've had some great undergraduate performance. Good academic performance previously does make you a good candidate. However, work experience also plays into that. So let's say you've had maybe a stellar professional career and you may not have excelled so well as an undergraduate student. All of those things balance out, and you want to make sure, again, all about program fit, finding a program that's going to look at you as a candidate and really polish you into a fantastic professional as you're going your way through the program. Schools have different requirements, especially during COVID and the recent year and a half of limited testing around GRE and or GMAT testing. Regarding language testing, you can expect to be asked to take either the Duolingo test or TOEFL or IELTS, various things like that. And there's often are other tests that individuals are asked to complete, but again, very program specific. Those are ones that are going to be very common that you will see across program in the United States. Grace did a great job of highlighting that there are different programs that have different levels of work experience that are required. Some programs are really focused on that new undergraduate student and helping them to enter the workforce. Some are really focused on 3 to 5 years of experience, taking that young professional and making them 100% ready for a shining career in the particular field that they are looking for. So ask lots of questions as you are going through program research. Talk to graduates and make sure that you're finding a program that is going to meld with your individual goals. Oftentimes also in your application, you're going to be asked to provide a letter of recommendation. Many times that can be either personal or professional, but you want to make sure that it is showcasing what you're going to bring to the program. Many programs also ask you to provide a personal statement. So thinking about whatever the prompt is that the institution is giving you. For instance, ours is about how you are going to show up as a student in the MBA program and what it's going to do for your career and that engagement long-term. So just make sure you're individualizing those to the various programs that you're applying to, because you want to make sure to highlight how you are going to be a good fit for those schools. And finally, often you might be asked to sit for an interview. Sometimes that will be language, but sometimes it will be to identify your motivation and interest in becoming part of the cohort. And oftentimes we will also do scholarship interviews if you are being considered for funding options. So plan to show up to those interviews. Likely they're going to be virtual at this point in time, but like it's a job interview, suited, booted, and ready to go.
Now that we've told you all the great things about applying to business school and why people might consider going to business school in the US, let's talk about finances. So we realize that financial support and paying for business school is a big topic of conversation, and we want to demystify a little bit of that process. So annual tuition for full-time MBA students at US-based schools was around 64,000 US dollars per year or more at the top 15 ranked MBA programs in the 2022 Best Business Schools rankings. I don't say this to scare people. I just say this to sort of give a realistic picture that the MBA is a particularly hefty financial investment, and we want to talk through the different ways that people tend to support themselves through that process. Great news is tuition prices typically are a little bit lower at public schools than private schools, especially for in-state students. Among the 11 highest ranked public business schools, the average in-state tuition for MBA candidates was $46,000 a year, again, according to that US News data. So how are people paying for these programs? What are the best ways to start thinking about this? And why is it important to start thinking about financing your business school education even before the time you apply? Typically, the following are ways that people would support themselves through the MBA. Self-support, using personal or family finances to be able to pay your tuition, fees, and other expenses while you're enrolled. School-sponsored support, which might include merit-based scholarships, grants, fellowships, things of that nature. Lauren even just mentioned the opportunity sometimes to interview for particularly selective scholarships at some of our schools. And school-sponsored support can certainly vary by value and availability from school to school. Need-based financial support, which, while very common at the undergraduate level in the US, is relatively uncommon at the graduate level. So you'll tend to see that most MBA programs offer mostly merit-based scholarships and other types of grants, although there are select schools in the US that certainly do offer financial need-based assistance, and that will typically be considering your personal income and assets at the time that you apply. One thing I always really like to emphasize, particularly since I know we have a very international audience today, is the opportunity for government sponsorship. So while non-US citizens are not eligible for federal student loans in the United States, typically many countries across the world do have programs and opportunities to take out either government-backed, government-sponsored loans, or even to receive grants. Sometimes these grants may be conditional. It may require you to come back to your home country and work there after graduation, but it's certainly worth looking into as an opportunity. And then the same goes for employer-based support. So some employers, especially with particularly talented candidates, may say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about having you work here. We don't want to lose you after graduation, but we would love to have someone with a very strong MBA education come and rejoin our workforce. Perhaps we'll pay for your MBA in full or in part, as long as you make a commitment to returning to this place of work after graduation. So that can also be an option to look into with your employer. And then educational loans are also a component of the way that many folks finance the MBA. Again, sometimes you may be able to obtain educational loans from your home country. In other cases, you may be looking more towards private student loans. And when thinking about the private student loan market in the United States, it may be more typical for our international students, although not always required, but perhaps extremely typical for candidates to need some sort of cosigner, either someone in the US or somebody who can guarantee that that loan will be repaid for candidates outside of the US. So if you're thinking about financing your MBA education as an international student, primarily through educational loans, I would start taking a peek now at some of the ways that you may be asked to prove income or assets or provide a cosigner before you do this. It's important for us to talk about paying for business school upfront, again, not because we want to confront everyone with the sticker prices, And many of our students do not always pay that full sticker price out of the combination of grants and scholarships that we may provide, but because it is also important for the visa process. So if you're an international student seeking a visa, typically you're really going to need to have figured out how you're financing your MBA before you get to that visa application, because that will be a question that's asked on your application for a U.S. student visa. Now, our schools will help you with the application process for that visa, but we can't necessarily make up gaps in the funding that you realize that you have after the point that you started applying for your visa. So that's why we like to be upfront about the fact that financing is something to think about now. This is a worthwhile investment. Our students see great returns on their investment in terms of their lifelong work earnings and ability to excel in their workplace. But financing is certainly an important consideration for many folks to think about and to start thinking about now.
We saw all of the admissions requirements that Lorna laid out for us. How do you fit those into a timeline? My advice is, if at all possible, give yourself the gift of time. We love to see when applicants are considering an MBA maybe 2, sometimes 3 years out before applying, because that allows a very good amount of time for being able to do research on programs and to be able to do the test preparation. As an international applicant, you're probably going to be doing 2 tests. One will be the GMAT and GRE, and also your language assessment test, your Duolingo or TOEFL or IELTS. If you have the luxury of 2 years to prepare for the program, I recommend that you start with the self-assessment that I referred to earlier, so that you are able to also do research on different industries and functional areas. A good tool for that is vault.com, vault like a bank vault, VAULT.com. Wonderful site for learning about different functional areas and industries. Talk to MBA graduates in your network, people that you already know, people with whom you work, or people they may know. LinkedIn is great for that. And just ask them about their experience and what they might recommend. You could do an initial research on programs at this point. And as I mentioned earlier, you may want to consider working with an MBA admissions counselor. And at that point, you would also want to start your test prep. It's never too early to start the test prep. The GMAT and GRE have validity of their test results for 5 years. And for the language assessments, it would be for 2 years. So recommend that if you have that much time to prepare, that you start your test prep. If you've at one point, 1 year out from application time, again, you want to be doing your test prep and perhaps take your first test, and you may need to continue studying to retest. Many times applicants need to take the GMAT or the GRE 2, sometimes 3, maybe even 4 times before they get a competitive score. You'll be able to see what the average in the 80% range is for each school that you're interested in, and you'll want to target that. So make sure that you've given yourself enough time to be able to prepare and test and retest. You'll want to explore your financing options, as Grace just mentioned, and you want to do this well in advance of applying for a program. Don't wait until you're admitted to try to figure out the financing. At that point, it's going to be very, very late and very, very stressful. Yes, we understand that you're probably going to be relying on scholarships, but you'll need to have a backup plan should you not get that full scholarship that you're hoping for. So make sure that you've looked into loan options and other resources. You'll need to define the qualities that are important to you in a program that I referred to before. What are your values? What's going to make a good fit? How is the environment going to feel good to you as a place to be for 2 years doing your program? Continue researching programs at this point and talk to alumni of the programs and attend events like different webinars that the schools do or fairs, virtual and in person. 3 months out before the round 1 deadlines, you may still be testing and retesting, and that's okay. You'll want to refine your short list of programs and continue to attend events and interact with the different communities at MBA programs, alumni, current students, admissions officers. Once you've applied, that's not it. You need to continue to be engaged. Let programs see that you're interested in their program. Engage with students. Learn as much as you can about the program, because more than likely you won't be able to visit the programs in person. So you want to try to get as best a sense of the program as possible by talking to current students and alums of the programs. You could do pre-approval programs for loans, see how much you would be approved for. So still working that financing of your MBA piece. And you may need to retest once you've applied, and you'll want to see what the individual school's policies are on submitting scores of tests that you've taken after you've applied. And then hope for the best for notification, and take it from there. Good luck.
Well, I am very excited to kick us off with a brief presentation about each of our individual schools by talking about the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business. Again, my name's Grace, and I'm happy to represent Booth as a University of Chicago alum and as a member of the admissions office. The University of Chicago, I think, is a really, really special place to study. We're known as a particularly intellectual school, a school where people really come to dive extremely deeply into their learning experience. And one of the things that we really highlight as part of our MBA program and curriculum particularly is that we have a flexible curriculum here at Booth. While some MBA programs may ask students to come in and take these same classes in a cohorted experience for their first year of school, at Booth we only have one required course and then a number of general foundational areas in which we ask you to take courses, but you can choose the courses and the timing of those courses to go across your 2-year curriculum with us. And that, I think, allows students to really tailor their experience to be exactly what they're looking for coming out of an MBA. You heard me mention earlier that it's typical, at least for candidates at Booth, to have at least 2 years and often more in that 3 to 5 years of post-college for a full-time work experience. And I think that really complements our flexible curriculum quite well, in the sense that folks that are coming into Booth typically have some really strong industry experience in one or maybe even a few areas, and know exactly what they'd like to get out of their MBA, and also exactly which areas of skill they really hope to enhance, maybe don't even have yet, as part of their MBA. So as part of our program, you'll complete 21 courses. A leadership development course is, again, that one required course. It's a course called LEAD, and that is done in a cohorted experience. So don't worry, you do have a really great opportunity to learn and study with a number of other folks. Those 9 foundational areas, things like a course in accounting, but at a level that's appropriate to your background and skill, and a number of other foundational areas as well. And then elective courses that just happen to be courses in areas that you are interested in. You could take more courses in certain foundational areas. You could take courses across the university. 6 courses as part of our flexible curriculum can be taken outside of Booth at UChicago. And we tend to see students taking classes at our law school, at our public policy school, in some of our master's degree programs in computer science. Even a literature course can be yours as part of your Booth experience, as long as you really feel that it complements there. I'll move to the next slide. Community is a really, really important element of the student experience at Booth too. You heard me talk about our LEAD course earlier. LEAD courses are taught in a cohort. So you meet with a group of people who really follow you, not just for that first course, but also become close friends and colleagues throughout the rest of your Booth experience. We separate our around 600-person class into 10 LEAD cohorts every year. So that's a group of 60 core folks that you're going to really just be able to meet and become great friends and colleagues with right up front. We also have lots and lots of student organizations that students can be a part of, more than 80 professional student groups. We do team competitions, things like financial stock pitching challenges, for example, and our teams tend to travel across the country and even across the world when it's safe to do that. to compete at other colleges and universities to show their skills a little bit more and learn from others. We also have some travel opportunities at Booth. One of the most popular experiences at Booth is a program called Random Walks, which is actually a pre-MBA program where our students will sign up to go on a trip with other incoming MBA candidates. And in some cases, all you know is the destination of that trip. They're planned and executed by current students, and it is a really incredible way to say, hey, I've never been to Portugal before. I would just love to meet new friends, love to see the area, love to learn a little bit more about that community, and then have the opportunity to do that with other new Boothies and make some great friends even before you start school. My favorite is that we even have the random walk in which you do not know where you're going until the trip starts and you show up at the airport. So that is for the particularly intrepid, but I would love to be able to hop on that one someday. We also do a number of industry tracks, which are basically group trips where you'll go with a member of our career services office to meet with folks that are in particular areas, focusing on a career path or pathway. So for example, a Silicon Valley track for folks that are interested in venture capital and startup organizations. And you'll meet with Booth alumni and other people who tend to hire folks at Booth to learn a little bit more about those industries, those organizations, and even perhaps have an interview or two of your own. Next slide, please. Speaking of career support and other types of support, our students are very, very well connected to mentors, both Booth graduates and folks that are here in the city of Chicago and elsewhere who are excited to work and support with Booth graduates. You'll have a career advisor who's a professional staff member, in addition to the opportunity to receive career support from second-year students who do that in a peer-to-peer mentorship capacity and can talk to folks who may be contemplating a career transition or a pivot about what either their prior area of work looked like or how they engaged in that. 80% of our students are hired directly through Booth channels, whether that's a connection through our career services office, a Booth alum, or even a current student. And we even have opportunities for Booth students to create their own opportunities, such as our new venture challenge, which is a startup funding competition, which has awarded several $1 million to organizations that have been started by Boothies to launch after graduation, or even in some cases during graduation. We have had, the small number of people who leave Booth in the middle of their time tend to do so because their startup has become so successful that it's very hard to balance the power of that startup with their school experience. And we understand that that's a pretty cool reason to leave your MBA education. Unless this is my last slide, I'll take the last one. Okay, so let's talk about those foundational areas that we spoke about earlier. These are the foundational course areas that we ask students to take. And as a reminder, these are not in themselves classes, right? So while we do offer a course in financial accounting, there is no one specific class that says this is the only financial accounting course that you can take. In many of these areas, there could be 4 to even 10 or 12 different courses that would satisfy these foundational requirements, again, at different levels. So for example, we have an introductory financial accounting course for folks that do not have prior experience in that area, but we also have courses for folks who already are chartered CFAs to really take that accounting skill and understanding to the next level and making sure that you don't have to sit in a class that repeats material that you already know. So those are our foundations. And then these are the application requirements. These are very largely similar to what we were chatting about earlier when we were talking about general MBA application requirements, but you'll see our round deadlines here. And I'll be happy to answer any more specific questions either in the Q&A feature or in the chat. In addition to after this session, we'll be providing contact information, here we go, to learn more about Booth or to get in touch with a member of the MBA admissions committee. So thank you for your time and appreciate your interest in learning more about us at Booth.
I get to chat about the University of Kentucky and the Gatton College of Business and Economics. We are the Kentucky Wildcats, and I'll be honest, I'm an alum of our Master's in Business Administration program a million years ago, so I'm a little bit biased that we're pretty amazing. But well, let me just start with telling you a little bit about Kentucky. We are right smack in the middle, sort of middle eastern part of the United States. We're about a day's drive from the majority of the U.S. population, and we have a lot to offer. Next slide, please. Our college is specifically a land-grant university. What that means is our charter and our mission is to support our state and our region in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We do that through a number of ways, including education, both at an undergraduate and graduate level. We have a very large research arm as well as a R1 institution here at the University of Kentucky. We excel in healthcare, supporting the needs of our community. We provide cultural enrichment and also economic development. But what that means is we're a big place. So the graduate community at the University of Kentucky is fairly small. Our one-year MBA program is right around 60 students each year. So it has a wonderfully small cohort, but that is in a very large environment of over 26,000 students here on the University of Kentucky campus. This graphic here represents the state of Kentucky in many ways. We are in a region where there is green all around. We have horse farms. We are in fact in Lexington, which is the horse capital of the world. And this group of individuals are in the shape of Kentucky. That is our incoming freshman class. So they will be graduating in 4 years as proud members of what we call the Big Blue Nation. I mentioned our one-year MBA program. Our program is different than the Booth schools. It is really geared towards those recent undergraduates and also individuals with between sort of 0 and 3 years of work experience. So we take candidates into the program, help them understand what they might like to do, and then help them position themselves to enter the work environment in ways that are optimal for them, either in the United States or elsewhere. We have a shorter duration program. It's concentrated. We have 11 months of content that we put students through on our program. Again, as you're looking at all of those different start dates for programs and application rounds, ours starts in June. So if you're applying for our program, that sweet spot for your application to come into us is going to be in the tail end of the fall and in the early spring, especially if you are looking for visa consideration. I mentioned it's a small cohort, but we have an incredibly devoted team here, not only in my team who support our students in their co-curricular activities, but also our faculty in the various departments that we have here within the College of Business and Economics. I would like to just highlight our curriculum. We are a cohorted program, so students go through foundational material early on in our summer module. That does include a career development course where you are matched one-on-one with a dedicated career advisor who provides you with the background that you're looking for and also that personal exploration of what you might be considering as you're thinking about a career path. So that's built into our summer module. As you move into the fall and the spring semesters, you will also go through some core content in various areas such as marketing, analytics, economics, finance, et cetera. But you will also be taking elective courses throughout those 2 semesters, and you can specialize in those areas that are most compelling to you. We have departments here within the college, of course. Analytics, finance, marketing, and supply chain is a hot one just because of where we are located here and also all of the things that are going on in the world of supply chain right now. And I would also highlight that you have an opportunity to participate in international studies. So we do have a partnership at this moment in time with the University of Grenoble for a class in design thinking, and we are looking to enhance that in terms of various other options over the next year or so. So keep an eye on that. We do offer a transcripted option with a concentration in entrepreneurship. So thinking about those pitch competitions, and if you are interested in starting your own business, that is something we do offer. And because of the breadth that we have at this very large institution, you can also do dual degree programs with many different colleges here on campus, including our College of Law, which is right next door, our College of Medicine, College of Pharmacy, and we've just launched this year with our College of Dentistry as well. So there's a lot going on. My colleague Song is on in the chat with me today, and I would encourage anyone who's interested in this program as an international student to reach out to Song. She's amazing and can answer all of your questions. Next slide, please. In addition to our MBA program, I would also highlight that we have specialized master's programs, several of which are STEM certified, which make you eligible for additional OPT here in the United States for work experience. So all of these programs can be completed in just about a year, depending on what you're coming in with in terms of your undergraduate background. But we offer an MS Finance, which is a one-year program. And I would just highlight that those students get to manage a $5 million endowment on behalf of the university. It's a great thing to watch the tickers go around in our building here. We've just launched a Master of Human Resources and Analytics this past year, really focusing on how data can make a difference in the world of human resources. We have an MS in Supply Chain. Again, that's a really interesting field right now to be in. Masters of Marketing, and then finally a Masters of Accounting. And again, if you are interested in any and all of those programs, please do chat with Song. She is amazing. We talked a lot about the admission process. So for the University of Kentucky specifically, I would encourage you to review the individual programs that you're looking at, because as I mentioned, we all start at a little bit of a different time. Majority of them do start in the fall semester, but if you're thinking about that one-year MBA program, I would definitely encourage you to apply early, because we do have that mid-June start date. And we will definitely want to spend time with you as a candidate, thinking about your interest in the program, and then also how we can provide support to you as a candidate who might be coming to the United States for your graduate education. We like to know our candidates before they get here and spend time with you, making sure that we have all the information that you need to make an informed decision. On the next slide, we've got our QR codes, which are for our one-year MBA and then our specialized master's programs specifically. If you go to those links, you will get lots and lots of information about our curriculum and our tuition and fee structure. We are a little bit more cost competitive in some ways than a lot of our top 10 business schools here in the United States. So I encourage you to just take a look. And we are really excited to spend time with each and every one of you as you're going through your admission process. Thanks for the time today.
Vanderbilt University, also known as the Ivy of the South. We are located in Nashville, Tennessee, whose nickname is Music City, USA. This is the home of country music, but don't worry, it's not just all about country music. There's all types of music here, a lot of it free any night of the week. We are located in the southeast part of the United States, very centrally located. We are within a 2-hour flight of all of the cities on the East Coast, as well as Miami, Houston, Dallas. So it's very, very easy to get around the country from Nashville. We are known as the healthcare provider hub of the United States, as well as a startup hub for entrepreneurs. In fact, Google has identified Nashville as one of its 9 tech hubs for entrepreneurs in North America. We are one of the fastest growing cities in the US, which translates to incredible job opportunities. Recently, Amazon announced it is moving its Center for Excellence in Operations to Nashville, and Oracle is going to be opening a center here as well. Very high quality of life, the lower cost of living, certainly lower than any of the cities on the East or the West Coast. And it's a very, very vibrant city. It's been ranked as the friendliest city in America by Travel and Leisure magazine. And as I mentioned, Music City, USA, doesn't get much more fun than that. At the Vanderbilt Business, at the Owen Graduate School of Management, we offer only graduate degrees. That means if you were to do your MBA here, you would not be sharing resources or the building with undergraduates. We offer 2 MBA programs, the full-time 2-year MBA program, as well as an executive MBA program, which is appropriate for those working in the region as it meets 2 weekends a month. We offer different specialized masters in finance, accountancy and insurance, accountancy and valuation, as well as a master's in marketing and a master of management in healthcare. As I mentioned, Nashville is a healthcare hub of North America, of the United States. So we've got the Master of Management in Healthcare, as well as a concentration in healthcare within the MBA. Other concentrations within our MBA are strategy, for those going into consulting, finance, which includes wealth management and corporate finance, human and organizational performance, marketing, accounting, and also operations and analytics. The finance and operations and analytics concentrations are STEM designated. So as Lorna mentioned, that means that as an international, if you did a STEM designated concentration, you would have an additional 24 months to stay in the US to work for a total of 36 months. So why a Vanderbilt MBA? We offer a world-class education on a very personal scale. We are known for being incredibly collaborative. Our classes are anywhere between 170 to 180 students, which we find is an ideal number for students to all get to know each other, and not only know each other within their year, but between the first and the second year students. We also have a 7-to-1 student to professor ratio. That means that students know their professors and professors know their students by name. It's a very, very collaborative, close-knit environment. And we also, for international students, offer an international student care group where we bring together all the international students once a month, usually over lunch, just to do a check-in to make sure that everybody's doing okay, that they're understanding the system and the culture, and to share time together. We have a renowned leadership development program, which runs the length of the 2-year MBA program. This is where students have the opportunity to be coached by executive coaches. These aren't staff members, they're not professors. We bring in executive coaches who have maybe 30 years experience working with mid-career professionals. They're able to meet with their coaches one-on-one or in a small group with other students. So it's the opportunity to work on those areas of opportunity to become a stronger leader. We use different assessments like the Hogan assessment or tools from Korn Ferry International to be able to determine what those strengths and areas of opportunity are as a leader. And then with the coach, students work on turning those areas of opportunities into strengths. We have a renowned career management center, and because this is such a personalized program, everybody works with their own personal career coach. Easy access to the coaches because this is not a huge program. So there are many, many different resources that the Career Management Center provides, not only with the individual coach, but with peer coaches, second-year students who work with the first-year students, helping them with their internship, with mock interviews, with their cover letters and resumes. And for enrolling students, they start working with the Career Management Center in April before they enroll in the program in August. So they start doing workshops to make sure that they are prepared when they get to campus, because companies start arriving in August and September to do information sessions. So we want to make sure that everybody hits the ground running when they arrive here. These are our application requirements. We require the GMAT GRE and now the executive assessment, which is an at-home test, as well as Duolingo, IELTS, or TOEFL. Only one letter of recommendation, 3 short essays, and a video response, which is a fun way to bring your application to life. And we do have a required interview as part of the interview process. Different application deadlines. We've already had our round 1 deadline, and the next deadline will be January 5th, followed by March 29th for round 3, which would be the very last application for internationals. If at all possible, I'd recommend you apply by round 2. Applying in round 3 means it's going to be a little tight as far as when you get your decision and you need to get everything in order to apply for your visa. So I always recommend that students aim to apply for round 2, but I do recognize that some may not be prepared until round 3. This is our QR code. If you'd like more information, please go to our website and scroll down to where it says international candidates. We have a lot of information specific to internationals that you should find very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna, Grace, Kim, for that wealth of information. I think from your presentations and from the general information you provided at the beginning, we see that there are some similarities, but a lot of differences among programs, and why your guidance and your tips and strategies to really look into what type of program and at which university would be best fit for our prospective students on the webinar today. We are at the hour, but we're going to take, the panelists have agreed to stay on for a few minutes to answer some of your great questions. And the first one deals, and we saw a couple questions come in around their diversity of backgrounds, a 3-year bachelor's degree program, or somebody who has already completed their master's in a related but not directly business field. Agriculture management was the field asked about. Can you just briefly talk about who is qualified to apply and what you're looking for in applicants who bring a diversity of backgrounds with them?
I would say that most programs are looking for a diversity amongst their student population. So not only between citizenship, ethnicity, but also with the diversity of backgrounds. You bring that wealth of expertise and what an employer would like to see as well. So we would encourage those with diverse backgrounds to apply.
One of the things where, and I think this is going to be where Chicago Booth is going to differ a little bit from some of my colleagues that are here today, is that our program, and again, this is part of getting to know all of the different types of MBA programs that exist in the US, our program really is going to strongly emphasize that you have at least 2 years of post-college work experience or have been in the workforce in some way. So we do not have any specifications about how you obtained your bachelor's degree. If a 3-year bachelor's degree is common in your home country, we will happily accept that. But we would always be looking for candidates to have been out of school in some capacity for at least 2 years in the workforce before coming to us. So to the question, for example, from the candidate who seems to maybe have gone straight from an undergraduate to a master's degree program, we would then hope, we would welcome certainly the diversity of experience that would come through that additional learning, but we would hope to see a candidate spend at least 2 years in some sort of workforce before coming to us. So, doesn't necessarily matter how you've been working, doesn't necessarily matter where you've been working. We just know that our program is particularly best suited to folks that have had some hands-on work experience at some sort of company, organization, or other sort of space before coming and engaging with Booth's programming.
Great. And Lorna, from the University of Kentucky perspective, how does that question play out?
Very similarly in terms of that undergraduate degree. So if you have a 3-year undergraduate degree, which I understand is common in many countries, we encourage you to send over your transcripts in advance so we can take a look at them, have our graduate school take a look at them and make sure that we don't need any additional information from you. In terms of that undergraduate background or having a prior master's in another field, we love having that variety of academic experience and professional background in our cohort. So for instance, only about 30% of our students who come into the program come in with that traditional business undergraduate education. After that, we see a lot of different backgrounds from all the STEM fields, engineering. We might even have anthropologists. Agriculture is huge here in Kentucky because of our land-grant institution status as well. So again, we welcome all individuals who are interested in refining their business skills to think about applying for the MBA.
Great, thank you. We'll take one more question. It's a 2-part question that came in about international student-specific scholarships. So do your institutions offer scholarships specific to international students? And then a second part to that related to visas and immigration. How do you support students in getting their visas to attend your universities? Grace, would you like to kick us off?
Absolutely. So at Chicago Booth, we provide merit-based scholarships to our candidates, and there are no scholarships that are specific to domestic or international students. All candidates who are admitted to Chicago Booth are eligible for the wide range of merit scholarships that we offer. So in some ways, I hope that answers the question positively. I know you were looking for international student-specific scholarships, but in other ways, I think it's always nice to know you're not excluded from any of the scholarship opportunities available at Booth because you're an international student. Everyone is eligible. For the second question, speaking for the University of Chicago, and I know there are similar setups at a lot of other institutions, We have a whole team at the university that supports international students in seeking their visas. So they work with our students at Chicago Booth, they work with our PhD candidates, they work with our undergraduate candidates, and they are very, very well versed in the intricacies and needs of the student visa application process and work with candidates after the point that they've been admitted, but before the point they obviously show up on campus, to make sure that you have all the documentations, the certifications, and things that you need to be able to go through that visa application process, and also that some of that material is submitted on your behalf as required by the university. So the great news is there's a lot of infrastructure here for that. We do not just say, okay, now go get a visa. We provide you with the assistance and the information that you need to be successful in that visa application process, as well as support. And that support, of course, it's free. It's part of being a University of Chicago student that you'll receive that from us.
Great, thanks. Lorna at Kentucky?
Ditto what Grace said. So our scholarship pool is not deep. I will not lie. The University of Kentucky does have some limited and competitive scholarship funding, but we love to be able to help our international students find a place here with us. So we will encourage you to apply, showcase yourself as best you can, and know that you will be being considered for funding as that is available. We do have some limited funding for specific countries that has been provided by donors. But again, Song is going to be your best resource for that information. And regarding visa applications, absolutely, we will provide support to you from our University of Kentucky International Center, all the way from making sure you have a ride to the airport or to campus from the airport, support in terms of finding housing, et cetera. So again, we're a big community, but with lots of support for our students.
Thank you. And Kim?
Very similar for Vanderbilt, merit-based scholarships. Anybody who is admitted is considered for scholarship. And for international students, we also have diversity scholarships, as well as all of our other scholarships. And Vanderbilt has an international student and scholar office that provides all the necessary support for obtaining the visa and getting to the US.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to our panelists for, again, sharing your expertise and experience with us, with Duolingo English test takers and your prospective students. Again, there are still a lot of questions, and many of them are specific to the institution. Each institution did provide in the presentation, and we can follow up with you on how to reach them directly in the chat and through the presentation, where the QR codes as well as emails to contact them to learn more. Encourage you all to do that. If you have specific questions about the Duolingo English test, I've also included our website in the chat for you to contact. englishtest.duolingo.com includes a wealth of information to frequently asked questions, and please do get in touch. We have had a great time with you all this morning. Again, thank you to our panelists. We will leave you just with a few words of advice. Each panelist has submitted what they think will help make you all successful applicants. And I will turn it over to them to share. Kim, would you like to share yours just briefly? 30 seconds.
Sure. I recommend that you start the process as early as possible. As I mentioned before, with the timeline, if possible, at least 2 years out. So give yourself the gift of time.
Great. Grace?
I always encourage candidates to focus on your goals. There are a lot of people who think, I would love to get into an MBA program, but the key about having success in an MBA program is thinking a little bit further as to what do I want to get out of being an MBA candidate? What are my goals and what are my hopes for myself while I'm both enrolled in this degree and post-degree? I think that helps you get a much fuller picture of the options and opportunities available to you and to really harness the power of everything that we have to offer.
Great, thank you. And Lorna?
My final piece of advice is to make connections. So the University of Kentucky is in the the center of our country, but it's a lot different than a big city. And so I really encourage students to think about making connections with people who have graduated from the universities that you're interested in. Make sure to get a good handle on what that environment and experience is going to be like, and do all of that research. It's been a real pleasure spending time with you today. And thank you for having UK here as a member of the panel.
Wonderful. And best of luck to all of our prospective students and future applicants in your academic journeys. And thanks again to our wonderful panelists, and hope to see you around.